We okay in the back? Okay, we're good. We're all
Great. Calling to order committee meeting of the RTA Organizational Service and Performance Monitoring Committee at 9 a.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Biassiata.
Here.
Ms. Welch.
Here.
Ms. McPherson.
Here.
Ms. Pachetti.
Here.
And Mr. Sleesman.
Here.
You have 5 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Wonderful. 3 agenda items today. We have our procurement for fleet electrification study, picking up an option to order new coaches, and a procurement for unleaded gasoline. First up, we're going to have our RFP procurement and a presentation of competitive negotiated procurement for a consultant to provide fleet electrification study in support of moving towards a zero-emission fleet. Mr. Temming, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, Chair Biassiata, members of the committee and the board. My name is Brian Temming. I'm manager of quality assurance for the engineering division, and I'll be presenting on the fleet electrification study along with Sean Becker with the procurement department. A little bit of project background. Back in 2022, the GCRTA developed a zero-emission fleet transition plan. With this plan, we primarily focused in on our revenue fleet because it makes up 98% of GCRTA's vehicle emissions. And this plan was primarily based on transitioning vehicles at the end of their useful life. As part of that zero-emission transition plan, we identified a few challenges in making the change. One was technical viability. This has to do with the range of the vehicles and also charging times. The second was facility needs and considerations. This is the power that's actually at the facilities themselves, whether we need to increase service. Also, modifications to the facility to house, stage, and also upgrade the fire suppression and safety systems. And the third challenge was workforce development. Again, just training our employees on the new technologies. So with the fleet electrification study, what this will do, it's going to assist us in kind of taking the next steps in evaluating the feasibility of transitioning to zero-emission vehicles, providing us some technical guidance to help navigate these challenges. As part of this study, it's broken into 3 phases with multiple tasks. The project will take approximately 12 months to complete. The study, we're going to expand beyond just the revenue fixed fleet. We're also going to include paratransit and non-revenue vehicles. The study also was partially funded through the Ohio Transit Partnership Program, or the OTP2 grants. The study will also provide an evaluation framework for our electric bus pilot. Earlier, a few months ago, we got awarded the Low-No grant for $10.6 million for that pilot. It'll be for 10 battery electric buses, 3 charging units that will run out of our Hayden District Garage. That's also part of our GCRTA strategic plan. Phase 1 will have 4 tasks. The first is data gathering, so this will primarily looking at our routes and getting information on our existing fleet. Task 2 will be performance modeling. The engineers or consultant will provide a list of kind of recommended vehicles, and they'll run some modeling to see how those vehicles perform on our various routes, and also what it would do to our charging times and staging. Task 3, they'll look at our fleet replacement schedule that we created in 2022 and update it based on the newer technologies and also some assumed technology improvements. And then task 4, they'll look at the charging, how we deploy those throughout the authority, whether it be depot charging or whether we provide some in-route charging for vehicles. Phase 2, we'll look more in the facilities side of it. We'll look at how we can stage the vehicles within the facility, one for storage, also for charging, and also pull-outs and pull-ins. We'll also look at our operating and maintenance plan, kind of the procedures to see if anything would need to modify with this new technology, and then take a look at safety training and the workforce development. And then phase 3, we'll have 2 tasks. One, we'll look at resiliency planning. So if we were to, say, go with all battery electric vehicles, if there was a storm or inclement weather where we lost power at the facilities, how could we maintain service? And then they'll look at funding planning. They'll do a total cost, life cycle cost analysis of the vehicles, the upgrades to the facilities, the training, everything. And then they'll also look at what grant opportunities or availability is out there for us to pursue to fund this. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean to go through the procurement portion.
Thanks, Mary. Good morning, Mayor Biassiata, committee members and members of the board. My name is Sean Becker, Program Contract Manager in Procurement, and responsible for administering this RFP. So the RFP was issued on June 2nd, 2024. It was accessed on the GCRTA website by 36 interested parties. Proposals were received on July 12th. There were 4 firms that proposed, and there was a 0% DBE goal assigned to this project. The evaluation panel consisted of members from engineering, project support, accounting, fleet management, programming and planning, and procurement. And those proposals were graded on the following criteria: the proposed staff's ability, past performance, their project approach, and the pricing and cost effectiveness. And the recommended firm is Sam Schwartz Consulting, LLC. They are a longtime leader in zero-emission fleet transition planning. They have a full-service engineering firm with over 3,200 employees. They have over 70 years of multidisciplinary engineering experience, and that includes zero-emission bus technologies, electrical engineering, facility engineering, and workforce training needs. And they've worked with dozens of transit agencies of varying sizes and various transition mandates and deadlines. Some of the agencies that they've worked for: Chicago Transit Authority, San Francisco Metropolitan Transportation Commission, Indigo, New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, Pomona Valley Transportation Authority, Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, King County Metro, and many others. And our recommendation: staff requests that the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award for a fleet electrification study services to Sam Schwartz Consulting, LLC, in a total contract amount not to exceed $311,924. And at this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Becker and Mr. Temming. Any questions from the committee? No? Wonderful. Anyone else on the board?
Thank you. Yeah, good morning. Well, great presentation this morning. Just have couple of questions, and I'll try to give you time to answer. Could you just give me a little bit of background on how you see sort of the overarching engagement from stakeholders? Like, what would that look like? And maybe that's still, you're envisioning that sort of external community stakeholders. Also, like what would an internal sort of team look like from RTA to support this process, the fleet electrification?
Yeah, so as part of the study, we do have an engagement portion built into it. Internal-wise, we'll probably be engaging both fleet, operations, maintenance, training, just to gather data, existing documentation. And then we are also looking to pull some external stakeholders, looking at other agencies that have done this already to kind of gather their information, and then also various community groups. We'll probably work with the city a little bit, the county, and others just that have gone through climate action planning or in the process of doing that.
So there'd be kind of like an external advisory committee to support the process.
As part of the end deliverables, it's not only a report, but also a public meeting is part of that as well.
Okay. No, thank you for defining that. And then as part of Schwartz scope, and again, maybe this is still more definition, are they going to be providing any, I see that they've worked with some other agencies that are moving forward in their execution of zero-emission fleets. Will they be providing like best practices as part of their scope to GCRTA?
Yeah, so primarily the report, what it'll be is a series of recommendations with kind of stepping stones. So if we want to transition this much by this time, here are the items that need to be completed by this date. So it'll kind of be a series of tasks that we can then take and decide how to proceed on.
No, that makes sense. I think I was just referring to the other agencies. Will they be potentially doing some case studies of best practices in terms of zero-emission fleet conversion?
Yeah, and they'll pull from past experiences and also what's lesson learned, I'll call it, from other agencies.
That's helpful. And then I think could you just speak a little more about the implications of the FTA zero emissions grant? You know, how this fleet study will kind of be part of the planning or rollout of the FTA grant?
Yeah, so for the FTA grant, it's for the 10 battery electric vehicles. So as part of this study, what we're asking them is kind of create an evaluation framework. So it's one thing to get the vehicles in here and start running them. The next thing we want to try to figure out is what information we want to gather from those fleets, you know, whether it's we're looking at the charging times, you know, how they actually perform on the things. We also want to do surveying to see what the customers feel, you know, as they're riding these vehicles, if there's a difference between these and our traditional CNG vehicles. So it'll be a series of items that they come up with just to help us better gauge how well those 10 buses perform here at RTA.
If I may.
Is enough? Yeah,
more.
floor is still yours.
Sorry,
That's
marathon. And I guess two more questions, really. Are you also looking at in the last, is it maybe the last phase or the second to last phase, you know, how are you thinking about sort of the facilities as part of the equation from, you know, microgrids deployment or, you know, charging as a service or generation as a service? Like, how are you thinking potentially about sort of overall business model implications as part of the conversion? Is that part of the scope, maybe, I guess?
It is, and that's a good question because I don't know if I know any of the answers to that yet. Yeah, we're hoping they'll help us. I mean, one of the big things is just storage of the vehicles, how we, you know, stage them within the facilities, because, I mean, these things have to be plugged in or hooked up to something to charge them while they're sitting there. It's not just row them up within the house. We are looking at renewable sources, whether there's potential of adding supplemental power, something at the facilities to help offset some of the charging demands from the utilities. We'll have to look at, you know, upgrading service to the facilities. Most of our facilities probably aren't capable. One task we're looking at is whether we can use our substations. We have, you know, a substation network for our red line, our train system, red, blue, green. Is there a way to tap into that to provide charging, kind of a medium-high voltage type charging scenario? So there's a variety of options that they're going to be looking at.
So that will be part of that facilities upgrade, Task 5.
Yep.
Okay. And then just last question was ultimately the frame will be zero emission. It's not necessarily, it's fuel source agnostic in the sense of electrification, hydrogen will be about zero emission.
They'll evaluate both vehicle types, whether it be battery electric buses or hydrogen fuel cell buses.
Okay.
Or maybe there's a third technology that we're not aware of, that they may have knowledge of.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, or answers, I should say.
Yep. Very good questions. Thank you, Mr. Love. Any further questions from the board? Hearing none, I move to approve this procurement. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Procurement is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now have a presentation of negotiated competitive contract option to purchase up to 40 Gillig 40-foot CNG coaches with spare parts and toolings. Our presenters will be Mr. Dietrich, Director of Fleet Management, and Glenville Manning, Contract Administrator. Mr. Dietrich, floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Biassiata, committee members, members of the board. My name is Dan Dietrich. I'm Director of Fleet Management and Operations, and I'll be presenting with Glenville Manning from Procurement on the exercise of an option under contract number 2020-071 with Gillig LLC for the purchase of 40 40-foot CNG coaches. RTA operates fixed route buses that serve over 75% of our customers. To provide safe, reliable, and cost-effective service, buses must be replaced on a regular cycle. FTA recommends replacement of transit buses at 12 years or 500,000 miles. Pictured here is the 40-foot Gillig CNG transit bus. This is a bus that our riders are very familiar with. It's what we see out on the streets today. This is the workhorse of our fleet and what we'll be purchasing with this option. Key features that were introduced on this contract and will continue with this option are passenger information system, contoured plastic seats, tip-in vented windows, 360-degree cameras, drive cam, windshield camera factory installed, and then this will be the first fleet that will have 5G router technology, kind of modernizing the fleet. And I'll hand it over to Glenville.
Good morning, Chair Biassiata, committee members, and members of the board. I am Glenville Manning, Contract Administrator, and I'll be presenting to you the 40-coach purchase of an option for 40-foot Gillig CNG buses. The Board of Trustees approved resolution number 2021-022 on March 23, 2021, authorizing contract number 2020-071 with Gillig LLC for the manufacture and delivery of up to 20 40-foot CNG coaches, spare parts, tooling, and training in an amount not to exceed $11,052,060 with options to procure up to 80 additional coaches, spare parts, tooling, and training to be delivered over the 5-year contract term. There is a critical need to replace additional coaches that have exceeded their useful life. Funding has been identified to procure the remaining 40-foot new coaches, spare parts, and tooling under a contract option. Gillig LLC will have the capacity available to meet GCRTA's production need. Anticipated delivery of these 40-foot CNG coaches are scheduled to start third quarter of 2025. Past coach purchase summary, not including spare parts and tooling. To date, the Board of Trustees have approved the purchase of 60 coaches as follows. On March 23, 2021, resolution number 2021-022 authorized 20 coaches at a unit price of $540,707 for a total amount of $11,052,060. On November 16, 2021, resolution number 2021-100 authorized 20 coaches at a unit price of $569.87 for a total amount of $11,211,397.40. On November 15, 2022, resolution number 2022-098 authorized 20 coaches at a unit price of $652,031.56 for a total amount of $40,631.20. This request will authorize 40 coaches at a unit price of $715,529.86 for a total amount of $28,621,194. Staff request the Organizational Services and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award of a contract option with Gillig LLC for the purchase and delivery of an additional 40-foot CNG coaches, spare parts and tooling in an amount not to exceed $28,893,874.40. This purchase will be funded from the RTA Developmental Fund, including multiple capital grants. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you both. If you can go back 2 slides. Right here. So our last contract in 2022 was $652,000 per bus, per unit, and now we're at $715,000. I was wondering if you could articulate the increase. Like, what percentage do you believe is inflationary impact, or is there a percentage related to modern, better equipment that we didn't have in the 2022 purchase?
With this purchase, we added the 5G router system, which had an increase on the price per bus. And also with inflation, we are, within the contract is stated that the inflation would be indexed by the PPI, which is produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. that has a index based on truck and bus bodies, and that was negotiated in the contract to model after inflation with the contract.
So the inflationary impact was built into the contract, I
Yes.
understand that. But with, what's the unit, approximate will work, the 5G unit cost?
It's around, I believe, $7,500
Okay.
with the purchase.
Small relative to the overall cost. So the vast majority of the increase in the unit would be inflationary impact?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
Just wanted to clarify that. So the increase in price was negotiated already,
Yes.
and it was that single component of the,
The producer's price index.
okay. Just that, but the truck component of the producer
Yes,
price. yeah?
truck and bus bodies with, I forgot what the subcomponent
Yeah,
is.
right, yeah, but there's like okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering because that's higher than the overall one, but if it's just that one, then that makes sense. Thanks.
Do we have a sense if we were to go, we were picking up the option because we believe it's beneficial to us. Do we have a sense of what the unit cost would be around if we were to, renegotiate a contract at current market?
I reached out to the bus manufacturer to get a current price of what the cost would be of a brand new contract, hypothetically speaking, and they were saying that we would have to do like a piggyback purchase, and what they stated to me, they would have to get back with me, but it said it could take a couple weeks to get that exact number, but I did inquire.
Okay. Yeah, what I found in my municipal experience, these options are often beneficial to the person holding the option, which is RTA at this point. And I was just trying to articulate, because this is a large purchase, that having the option and the built-in price more times than not is advantageous to us. And maybe we'll have that number when we come to bring this to a full vote.
As soon as I get
If
the
you do,
information,
share
I'll
that.
forward it. Yes, I will.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering about the number, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, but why 40 now? And is there an advantage to that in bringing the price down, or was it just the need right now? Can you just talk about the number?
Yeah, so we tend to purchase 20 to 40 every year as a regular cycle replacement, and this is the last option on this contract. We had the grant funding available, and the need is there. We still have some diesel buses that we're trying to phase out and replace with CNG. So this 40 count helps that process, and updates our fleet and upgrades it for getting some of the older buses out.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Love?
Thank you for the presentation. I think just building off the trustee Garpasetti's question, just some clarification on that 40. Will that be, so it's not all CNG to CNG, there's actually diesel to CNG. Could you just clarify the numbers on the 40?
Yep, so with this purchase, there's still 73 diesel buses left out at Triscuit. Not all of them are eligible to be replaced. They still have life left on them, useful life. But there are a number of diesels that are eligible. So what we'll do, and there are some CNGs that have reached over 500,000 miles. So they've also reached the end of their useful life. So what we'll do is we'll introduce these buses in. The new buses, the plan is to split 20 go to the Hayden district, 20 go to the Triscuit district, and then we'll kind of normalize the fleet and balance out, taking some diesel buses out of Triscuit and replacing them with some of the older CNG buses that have been running at Hayden to equalize that and help provide that service.
Thank you. So first priority would be diesel, and then the second would be the oldest in the CNG
Correct.
fleet.
Yep. Yeah, diesel buses that are eligible to be retired, those are a priority to get retired.
That's helpful. And then just, I guess the last question, I understand the logic on exercising the full option, but I also understand, there's still time in the 5-year contract, and as I understand it, the electrification fleet or zero emission fleet analysis will be done in about a year. So just thinking about how you're thinking about that procurement impact and the fleet analysis, a year from now, with there still being time in the full contract term. I don't know if that's a question for who. So the full contract term is still 5 years, right? It's a 5-year contract. There's the potential to exercise another, or would there be a potential to exercise another option, or you're trying to exercise the full option now? And I understand a lot be around that, but.
Trustee Love, members of the board, I'm Flonse Care, the Chief Operating Officer. So this will be the final contract that we can let with them because it was up to a unit of 100 vehicles. And so this will max out that 100 vehicles. So after this, we'll have to go out to the market to look for a vendor with an RFP for 40-foot transit coaches.
And with the timing of that, do you anticipate the timeline for the fleet analysis will kind of align with the timeline on the kind of next negotiation of that contract period?
It should be available to determine, how we go about the strategy of electrification and or zero emissions, along with compressed natural gas. So the compressed natural gas, at least at the time, given its cost, will probably always be a portion. And so we'll have to think about how that diversification of the fleet occurs.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Birdsong Terry, Ms. Mayor Kumar?
Question, on this type of bus, what's the total fleet size for the authority, roughly?
I used to know the number by heart.
Yeah, for the Gillig CNGs, we have 251. 251 40-footers, I should say.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Birdsong Terry?
Want to defer? Okay. Just wanted to offer just a quick comment more than question. We've talked about this quite a bit. I think they get enough questions from me on a daily basis. But wanted to also just mention to the board, the things that you see in front of you today are really rooted in replacement of our fleet and or piloting new technology. So a lot of the things that you see in front of you are either keeping up with technology, piloting new technology that may not be necessarily adopted in full by the whole industry, i.e. the EV technology, right? Because there's some bumps and bruises along the way as far as battery life, as far as switching over with technologies, but it's something that we're moving toward, and it's part of our strategic plan. When you're going to hear things about the rail car replacement, for example, coming up, you're going to get an update on that today. We, of course, are revamping that, over 40 years old in technology. So you'll see a lot of these really representing the investment that we have. And I also want to just make sure that we are keeping track of our numbers. So you'll hear, and the questions are great because it allows us to really stay on top of and on track with the numbers that we're providing for you today. It's a constant reminder that public transportation is not cheap. Right? And so I want to make sure that we also are taking advantage of the opportunity to see which technology works best for us. Before we can even work to converting anything completely over, we want to make sure that we finish out the fleet of where we are. But it's a great opportunity, and I think that we're probably one of the rare entities that have 3 different technologies potentially, right, on site. You can be looking at diesel or diesel hybrid, you're looking at CNG and a potential EV coming into play in addition to all of the rail cars that we have. So I just wanted to kind of explain the moment of importance that we have today, because I think we have so many resolutions kind of flying past you with all of the work happening over the past years. This is really a culmination of discussion on what suits our needs best and what works for reliability for the customer, first of all, and then what also works for our needs as far as the financial planning. We were in here up over 2 hours, I want to say close to 3.5, you guys know better than I, debating on what to make sure that we divulged, first of all, to the public that we could handle and knew we had the financing in place. We also have the plan and negotiations in place, whether it's a rail car that's coming to you, whether it's an EV study that's coming to you, or whether it's the replacement through the contract for buses. So I just wanted to make sure that you kind of were aware of that. There's a lot of kind of homework that's being done. We appreciate the questions. Honestly, it shows the investment and the commitment that you have to this as well. But our team is very well prepared to answer those questions. So I think we're excited to be able to showcase what we've got for you today.
Yes.
There.
Thank you. Just to, and this may have been more for the last resolution we were just talking about, but I'll ask it anyway. The electrification study, is that a comparative? Will that include a comparative of the technologies, or is this strictly, this is what we do to electrify the fleet? Does that make sense?
Doc, you want to handle that? Yep.
Yes, I can. Good morning, Mayor. As Trustee Love said, it is agnostic. So the electrification study happened to be the name that the study took, but it will take a look at all of the zero emissions technologies. And so there could be a potential that the recommendation is a hydrogen fuel cell, right, as opposed to electrification. And so it will be evaluating the technology of the alternative fuel vehicles and making a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
If I, go ahead, further chair.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that one. And I guess this is more when we're working with the consultant on the electrification study, I just want to make sure it captures, you mentioned zero emissions. If we're getting, and Trustee Love was sort of questioning some of this when we talk about our facilities and how we're generating. If we're getting power from the grid, I want to make sure that that study, if it mentions zero emissions or whatever in the thing, if we're getting power from the grid, I want to make sure that it says where that power is coming from, what the power mix is there. Because in general, if you just buy off the grid in Ohio, you're not buying clean energy unless you put guardrails around it. So if they're having any calculations or anything, I want to make sure that they're telling us, oh, if you're gonna have a zero emissions technology and it's electrified, if we're getting it from the grid, it may not be unless we're putting some kind of guardrails around how we're getting that. So
Yeah, so as part of the study, they're going to evaluate emissions on a regional level. So when they look at the vehicles and the emission offsets, they're going to look at also the fuel sources being supplied. So to look into taking into account what the regional emissions are for electric consumption. Right. When it comes to hydrogen fuel cell, they'll look at whether it's gray hydrogen or green hydrogen, what availability there is within the region for that stuff.
Right.
So even though we're saying it's a zero emission vehicle, we all know that it just transplants the emissions to some other source.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sleesman. Any further comments?
Just one additional, if I may. We have a long conversation, I know. This is just another example. We have overlapping technologies going on at the same time. So I just wanted to also reiterate that we have to also keep normal service going, normal meaning what we've already invested in, and then be able to look at these sourcing. So as mentioned, the study does kind of overlap in technologies to be able to give us the best recommendation. So I think the items that are mentioned make a lot of sense. It's a delicate balance to make sure that we don't jump ahead of what we've already invested in to make sure that we've got that technology as a reliable source for our operations, but we do want to make sure that we're forging ahead in the technology that's out there. So I definitely look forward to briefing the board when it's appropriate on the findings from the study that's to come. As a reminder as well, and I know we're going to have a little bit of a debrief probably at the next board meeting, but the APTA conference that a lot of us went to as well was a great opportunity for folks to hear about what's going on nationally. And I think that you'll hear a lot of pros and cons for all of the technology that's out there. So while nothing is a perfect science, you do have a little bit of that Jekyll Hyde going on within the industry where folks are loyalists to certain type of fuel technology, and whether it's hydrogen and whether it's diesel, and you have folks that will swear up and down they will never buy an EV bus, and you have folks that swear they will never get a diesel again. So I think what we want to make sure is that it's lasting and that we have a technology that puts us in a situation where we can serve a generation. And if we determine that it makes sense to convert from what we've already put in, then we have to have that analysis of the sites and of the fuel and of the finance to go along with it. So this will be a little bit of a labored process. So I ask for your patience as we go through it, because we want to make sure that whatever the cost, we're dealing with vehicles that are upwards of $1 million a piece, if not more. But this is a great opportunity for us to really revolutionize the way that we do business.
Thank you. I think everybody's had an opportunity. It's a large contract. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Sleesman.
Do we have a second?
Second, Pachetti.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The procurement for $28,621,194.40 for 40-foot CNG coaches has been approved through the Organizational Service and Performance Monitoring Committee. Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move on now to our next agenda item, which is a recurring competitive procurement for the purchase of 87-octane unleaded gasoline for a period of 3 years. Mr. Folgiani, floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair, Mayor, Biassiata, committee members, and members of the board. I am Ryan Foliano. I'm the Assistant Supply Chain Manager, and I will be presenting on the 87-octane unleaded gasoline. 87-octane unleaded gasoline is required for the operation of the authority's revenue and non-revenue fleets of vehicles. These vehicles include paratransit fleets, work equipment, trucks, pool cars, and transit police vehicles. The authority procures approximately 450,000 gallons of unleaded fuel per year, and our two locations for fueling and storage are paratransit and rail facilities. As of September, current average yearly pricing for unleaded fuel is $2.43 per gallon. The unleaded fuel pricing fluctuates based on the average daily sales rate tracked and published by the Oil Price Information Services, or OPIS. Something that's not in this presentation, I want to clarify kind of how pricing is determined. A report is run out of our OPIS system that determines daily pricing. That pricing is a set rate. Then there's a contracted plus or minus discount that is either added or subtracted to that cost. So for an example, unleaded fuel is usually historically a OPIS plus. So if the price per gallon is $2.50 and the contracted obligation is plus 3 cents, then our competitive price for that day is $2.53. I will now introduce Mabry Harris to present on the procurement overview.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, Chair Biassiata, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Mabry Harris. I'm the procurement team leader for Fleet, and I will be presenting the procurement overview for this project. The invitation for bid for furnishing of 87-octane unleaded gasoline for a period of 3 years was issued on August 26, and 5 responsive bids were received on September 19th. And the summary of the bids are as follows. We received responsive bids from Sunoco LLC, Petroleum Traders Corporation, Universal Oil, Colonial Oil Industries Incorporated, and World Fuel Services Incorporated. Sunoco LLC, headquartered in Dallas, Texas, was determined to be the lowest and responsive and responsible bidder. The authority will procure 87 unleaded gasoline for a period of 3 years at approximately 450,000 gallons per year at a firm basis rate above the OPIS index average daily rate on the date of delivery of plus 3 cents above the OPIS index per gallon for year 1, plus 3 cents above the OPIS index per gallon for year 2, and plus 3 cents above the OPIS index per gallon for year 3. Other clients of Sunoco LLC include Dayton RTA, Portage Area Regional Transit Authority, South Central Transit Authority, and the PA Turnpike, among others. Staff recommends that the Organizational Service and Performance Monitoring Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the award of a contract to Sunoco LLC for the furnishing of approximately 1,350,000 gallons of 87-octane unleaded gasoline as specified and as required for a period of 3 years. Are there any questions?
Were all the contracts that bid based on the OPIS scale?
Yes.
Yep, okay, yep, there it is. And that's like an industry standard, sure, that's what the other agencies use?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any questions, but does my committee?
It's just
Yeah,
it's
all
a
good.
curiosity, but that last one is such an outlier. I got it. Did we at least ask them if that's what they meant?
I did check all of the bidders, and they did say that was their price.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sleesman. Anybody else?
I have one. For those of us not familiar with the Opus Index scale, can you tell us a little bit about that so we have an understanding, just a synopsis, quick synopsis?
So basically, Opus is it's the oil pricing index. So it's you basically go to their. We have a service that we run daily pricing for unleaded, any fuel, fuel, diesel, and basically we get that daily rate, and then we take that daily rate and we add or subtract the discount that you're seeing here. So whether it's the 0.0316, or if it's diesel, diesel is historically a negative, so that would be a minus 0.03 or whatever that discount would be.
If I can add. Good morning, Ms. Welsh, members of the board. Flonse Caver, Chief Operating Officer. So a different way to describe the OPUS price is that the OPUS price is the commodity exchange rate of that item. So just like when we watch the news and they tell us that a barrel of diesel fuel or a barrel of gasoline costs something. So the OPUS price is the price that the regional, and it's regional, is that the regional refiner charges everyone for gas that picks up gas that day. And so our trucks will go to a regional refiner. They'll pick up a gas so that when you see them at a gas station in the big tankers, and that price is scheduled, is produced every day, but it's the commodity change. So it may change a few cents each day. And we have a service that tells us so that we know that that price is correct. And what we do is we pay, in this case, or who's our current? Is it petroleum? Petroleum traders. So petroleum traders is our current. So we pay them some number. Let's say it was 2.5 cents above that price. So every day there's a published rate that tells us what gas costs in this region for that day.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Part of the discussion was how to explain Opus. That's why we're all kind of smirking.
Fascinating stuff. Any further questions? Anyone? That's what I think about on the weekend. Anyhow, I move to approve this contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion's carried. This procurement moves to the full agenda at our next board meeting. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to move to adjourn the Organizational Service and Performance Monitoring Committee at 9:43. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
To call to order the Committee of the Whole presentation. First item, a roll call, please.
Mayor Kumar,
Here.
Ms. Welch,
Here.
Mayor Biassiata,
Here.
Ms. Elder,
Here.
Mr. Love,
Here.
Reverend Lucas, Ms. McPherson,
Here.
Ms. Pachetti,
Here.
Mr. Sleesman,
Here.
and Mayor Weiss.
Here.
We have 9 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is a rail car update. To provide an update on the procurement program, we have presenting Brian Moore, a rail car project lead manager, Casey Blaze, manager rail equipment, Dr. Flonse Caver, chief operating officer, and Mike Shipper, DGM and engineering project management. So I'll let the four of you provide an overview. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Kumar, members of the board. My name is Brian Moore, and I'm the manager of the Rail Car Replacement Program. I'm here to give you an update on the current status of the Rail Car Program. Just kind of giving an overview, there are 3 major elements. One is the replacement of the rail car, and again, we're going with a combined car for the
red, blue, and green line. Then we have design and construction services. And also we have infrastructure modifications. So those are, like I said, those are the three main categories of the program. Now just taking a look at the rail car replacement purchase. Siemens Mobility, Inc. is the manufacturer that we contracted with for our new vehicles. And April 18th of 2003, we executed the contract for the base contract for 24 vehicles. Then in November 4th of 2023, we exercised the first option for 6 additional vehicles. So that leaves us with 30 more vehicles that we can obtain on that contract. The current value of the contract is $195,589,849. And next month, you'll see us come back to the board and request approval for exercising our next option for 18 vehicles. Okay, just taking a look at the rail car replacement purchase, we've completed preliminary design review, and we've completed all of the final design meetings. So we've reviewed the documents, we've met, and we're in the process of finalizing those documents. And we're expecting Siemens to begin fabrication of the vehicles this month. Some of the key features of the new vehicle, a lot of them revolve around safety. So the first one is the RT1 2020 design standard, which is a standard to keep the operator in that front cab safe, as well as the occupants of the train. There's ice cutters on every one of the trains, so what that does is it clears ice when it accumulates on the overhead. And then another safety feature is the heated windshield and the heated pantograph. So again, that helps to de-ice the train so that we're able to pull out on time. We have a load leveling system that adjusts the height of the car, and a dedicated HVAC system for the operator. So the operator sometimes the climate in the passenger cab is a lot different. So that operator will be able to adjust their own environment. There's 52 passenger seats, 4 wheelchair areas, and 2 bicycle racks. And there's 12 seats that are flip-up seats. So we can flip them up, and then wheelchair or ADA mobility parking areas can also be used for bikes if somebody wants to stand, or strollers, things of that nature. Then the vehicles will also be equipped with passenger information systems, so just like on our existing buses. This is the exterior of the vehicle. If you notice on the ends of the car, the doors are longer, and that's where the stairs are that will provide boarding and alighting at low floor platforms. Then the 2 doors closest to the center or the articulated joint are fixed at the high level. So when we're in the low platform areas, the doors nearest the ends of the car will be used. Then when we're on the red line, there's trap doors that flip down and cover the stairs. So we'll be able to use all 4 doors to board and alight passengers on the heavy rail stations. This is a layout of the interior of the vehicle. As you can see at the ends, you can see the lighter areas. Those are the stairs. Then in the center of the car, you see where the wheelchair is and then where the bikes hang. So the other bike storage area is diagonal to where those bikes are, and then you can see where the seats are flipped up for the 4 mobility parking areas. Another rendering of the interior of the vehicle. Those are the colors that we'll expect to see on the new vehicles. And then the passenger information display is that sign that you see hanging from the ceiling. Okay, looking at the design and construction support services. Vehicle engineering consultant is Hatch. They've been with us. They helped us with the pillar study, and they've been with us through the development of the RFP for the vehicles. And they provide assistance in the design review as well as manufacturing oversight. Then we have a safety certification consultant. Their job is to keep the project safe. And that's K&J, Safety and Security Consulting Services. And they've been with us since the since we started working on the RFP. So they will be with us to the completion of the project. Infrastructure modifications, just as an overall kind of higher level examination of that. The track work, for the track work design, we utilize the existing on-call rail consultant, and that's Parsons. Then we have RFPs, an RFP for the facility modification with Bowen. So Central Rail Maintenance Facility is being designed by Bowen. And we have the Red Line platform modifications, and our designer on that is Osborne Engineering. Construction support services will be performed by RTA staff. So once it goes into construction mode, our staff will be the ones supervising the construction process. Infrastructure modifications. One of the key things that we had to do was install a switch at the Port of Cleveland to facilitate delivery of the new vehicles because they will come in on rail. And the environmental process for that is complete. We have the temporary construction easement, which we needed in order to issue the construction contract. And we're anticipating the permanent easement coming to the board next month. As far as the track construction, it's ongoing. We do have a contract. Parsons was the designer for that, for the construction of the track, and that is complete. Kennedy Railroad Services is a construction contractor. April 16th, the board awarded that contract, and May 8th is when the notice to proceed was issued. Right now, they're in the process of processing submittals, getting everything in order. Hopefully, we'll have some underground work done yet this year. Looking at the platform modifications, currently, and this is I'm speaking specifically to the Red Line right now, where the environmental process is ongoing. So it's currently an FTA review, and Osborne Engineering is the designer for the platform modification. July 30th, the board awarded that contract, and on September 18th, the notice to proceed was issued. And we're anticipating design being complete July of 2025. The blue, green, and waterfront lines, that's still to be determined, but we're planning on issuing the RFP for design work the first quarter of 2025. Brook Park Rail Shop. There's two components. There's track work and there's the building interior. Parsons is the designer for the track work, and we're expecting the design to be completed November of this year. And then we're anticipating advertising the construction also in November. The building interior, Parsons again is the designer. We're expecting the completion here this month in October. And again, we anticipate issuing the advertising the contract for construction this month. Central Rail Maintenance Facility, again, Bowen is the designer, and we're expecting that to be completed April of 2025, and then advertising that construction in June of 2025. Owner furnished equipment. This is something I bring it up because it's something that we plan to bring some of those items to the board next month. These are items that we need to purchase and furnish to the car builder. So that's the Motorola radio and the associated wiring. Cradle Point, which is a router that's used for Wi-Fi and our wayside connectivity. And then Vontis, it's our CAD AVL on our vehicles, and that provides customer information and then route performance. So those are things that should be coming to the board here in the near future. Other coordination activities that we've been working on, employee training. We did end up hiring 2 additional trainers to assist. Keep in mind that the technology we currently have is 40 years old, so our mechanics need to we need to make sure that they have the skills that they need to receive the training when the new vehicles come to town. And so we've begun the up-to-speed training, and what that is to get the mechanics, get their technical knowledge where it needs to be to accept that. And then we also have a pretty good network of other agencies that we partner with, we have frequent conversations with to gain from their knowledge, their experience, and some of their processes. We also meet and look at operational considerations. Obviously, we're combining the two lines, and there's things that we need to examine as far as what this looks like down the road. So testing, we talk about construction, revenue, service, implementation of that final configuration. We're meeting on a pretty consistent basis to discuss all those items. The vehicle acquisition. The base contract was for 24 vehicles, and it was issued at $5,166,366 per vehicle. We exercised the first 6 options within that first 6-month period with no escalation. That's important because as I continue to go down through this slide, you'll see where we were able to get away from paying that escalation with that clause being in the contract. All of the other options will be escalated based on, just as was discussed with the buses, on PPI adjustments. So it's adjustment for labor and then also for rail equipment. And you can see the weighting of each one of those indices to come up with the ratio. And the adjustment is based on the date in which the vehicle goes into final assembly. So it gets escalated up until that point. So for example, our 30th car, which is the final car of the first option, goes into final assembly roughly about April of 2027. So today, when we purchase that car, we've calculated to be about $5.3 million. That's what that $5.1 million vehicle is worth today. So then looking forward, that index will give us what that price is out in the future. But we do have to wait until the indexes are published. But in November, we do plan to come to the board for approval for 18 additional vehicles as well as spare parts. And with that, or after I get done, OMB will present the capital appropriation budget amendment. With that, I'll take any questions.
One question, the cost of these 18 vehicles, you mentioned the original cost of the $5.1 million. What's the per cost of these vehicles, roughly?
Right now, where they are is about 5.3. We won't know the final cost until it goes into final assembly and we actually finish the escalation. And which is about 2 years from now.
Correct. Other questions from the board?
I guess this is a big one, but in my head, the whole time I was kind of like, well, are we on track? Like, I assume we are, but just could you speak to that a little bit? And then the addition, just a little more for context on why the additional 18 as opposed to another number. Thanks.
Sure. 18 was the one that collectively, looking at all the finances, 18 was where we felt comfortable. 18 is also a number that we need in order to put the blue and green line into service. So we can, once we get those cars, then we can release the blue and green line, which is important because as I discussed earlier, the platform modifications, we still don't have the time frame for that, but the cars are a key component of being able to retire our existing fleet. I'm sorry, the rest of your question?
Just, are we on track?
Yes, we are, and actually, when I said that we were supposed to begin manufacturing this month, we were actually supposed to do it at the beginning of next year.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Just to make, I'm in my own mind, I'm like putting all these pieces together, but one of the keys I think that much of this goes to is, I assume I'm correct in this, is the ability to go from the terminus at the airport and go all the way to the terminus in Shaker, and every stop in between. With the 18 coming later, does that mean that won't happen until there was a second option, or a third, I guess now, for 18 vehicles come in? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Our plan has always been to retire the existing heavy rail vehicles first because of the condition that they were in. So yes, the blue and green line or light rail or the blue and green line, I have to get away from saying that. The blue and green line will be, it will be delayed until we get a certain number of that 18, that next option order. Yes, because the thing about it is we need enough vehicles to run our existing red line service and then spares. And then we also have to do the same thing for the blue and green lines. And the waterfront is tied into the blue and green lines.
And just one follow-up, and not necessarily for today, but I'd be interested to know how many of the stops require modification on both the light rail and the heavy rail, just on each end. So how, kind of check off the box how far along we are on those improvements.
One of the other.
Mayor Weiss, yeah, when it comes to the platforms, every red line platform is going to have to be widened approximately 8 inches on each side because the new rail cars are skinnier than the old ones. So that project on the red line, that's in design now. The goal is to do a design, bid it, have all the materials ready and in place and in Cleveland and staged so we can do a very quick transition, and trying to use materials that would be modular and easy to handle so that we can shut the line down for a shorter period of time, make the modifications, and put the new cars on it. The modifications on the light rail are more in line with modifying the mini high platforms that we have at about half of the light rail and waterfront line stations, half in total. So that work is it's not as extensive because it's just the mini highs. Again, we have to make the edge of that widened toward the train and adjust the heights of some of them 1 to 2 inches. So that contract on the light rail would really entail modifications to every of the ADA compliant stations we have on the light rail and on the waterfront line.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I did have one question, one of your first slides. There's a figure reference of 195 million, and just what did that represent?
That's the current contract with Siemens Mobility. So what that is it's going to be 24 vehicles. It's going to be the 6 options. But then as part of the base contract, there were some other other components besides just the vehicles. So there's non-reoccurring engineering fees. There were some spare parts in there and things of that nature.
It was the 24 and the 6?
Yes.
Okay,
so we're at 30
yeah,
now.
I just wanted to make sure I had that clarification on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so our total contract was up to 60 vehicles. So the base contract was 24, we exercised 6, and that's where the 30 remaining options are for us.
Of those initial 24 that were ordered, what's the estimated time frame currently for delivery?
We're expecting them to start coming in spring of 2026.
Anyone else?
If you don't mind, I'm sorry, just one more on the 18 rail cars. I'm just wondering if how you're thinking about ridership projections and how you kind of bake that into what's needed or what's not needed at this time.
Good morning, Ms. Pachetti, members of the board. Again, I'm Flauncey Cave, their Chief Operating Officer. So as we've been thinking about the investment in our rail system, surely ridership is a key component of it. After COVID, the summer of COVID, we did lose a good percentage of our ridership, particularly on the light rail line. We believe that the new cars, along with the new potential for routes, may be able to drive ridership. We don't have specific numbers as we're looking at just a shift in ridership in general, but we are looking at this as this investment is helping to be catalytic towards the service. And so what we know we will receive is we will have cars that are more reliable, so customers won't go through the situations where the train is broken down or things of that nature. And so ridership is a key component of our thoughts. When we look at the capacity, and so we have one component of our capacity is the daily trips that we have, and just call it the daily work trips. That's the largest component of that. But the other places that we have are major events in our community, and so we have to have the car count to be able to carry people at sort of some of our peak times. Several of those peak times, the most frequent one of those peak times is Brown Sundays, but we also have it when there are other events in downtown. We will be carrying 3-car heavy rail trains while the Indians are playing the the Guardians are playing the Yankees. And so we have to be able to make that up. And just to kind of dovetail off of that question to Mayor Weiss's question, when we look at that number of 30, that then allows us to build up for those special events in the interim. So you need about 30 cars to be able to carry all of the load that we do on the red line. I was going to say heavy rail because it won't be, but on the red line in order to take the capacity.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? I believe this was an update, so no action is required today, but I appreciate all the information and clarification, hard work of keeping the project on track. Thank you so much. Next,
Thank you.
Next, we have just again a quick update on the internal audit plan. I think we talked about this earlier in the year. Given changes that occur midstream once the plan has been approved by the board, internal audit does work with the management team to address priorities, and so there are modifications in this plan that we thought would occur. I just thought it would be a good habit as we move forward, as there's some milestones in this that Mr. Garofoli, head of internal audit, executive director, could give us an update on that.
Thank you and good morning, Mayor Kumar, members of the Committee of the Whole, General Manager Birdsong Terry, leadership team, and guests. My name is Anthony Garofoli, Executive Director of Internal Audit, and as Mayor Kumar indicated, this will be a presentation on the 2024 Internal Audit Plan modifications. To begin with, we must be in conformance with the Institute of Internal Auditors Global Internal Audit Standards. That Standard 9.4 is the Chief Audit Executive must create an internal audit plan that supports the achievement of the organization's objectives. Technical difficulty here. Also, that same standard, the Chief Audit Executive must review and revise the internal audit plan as necessary and communicate timely to the board and senior management. Teresa included in your package today both a red line version of the risk-based 2024 plan that was approved by the Board of Trustees in February of 2024, and also you have a second document which is that modification or plan modification in your board package. Common reasons for adjustments. As Mayor Kumar indicated, merging risks in the organization, could be organizational changes, changes in regulatory requirements. We may have audit findings that drive us to start other audits. Shareholder requests could come from management, the board, other sources, including myself, and then just resource availability to complete the audit plan.
Those are common. Why the modifications to this plan? So, as you just heard a presentation from our project manager, the rail car replacement second option. As you heard from our fleet team, Dan Dietrich, compressed natural gas bus replacement. All right, in December, coming to the board will be another option for a replacement to our bus rapid transit vehicles on Euclid Corridor. A couple of 18 months ago, you approved the locomotive, which is a work unit to service the rail line. And then just a couple of months ago, you approved a line car, an expensive line car, also a work unit for our traction power group. Those must have Buy America audits, both pre-award and post-award. We are actively involved in those. Those are all over the country. We need to get those projects done before January, okay, of this year. So we'll be busy. The other adjustments are, you'll see in the red line version, there's some deferral of projects. We're not doing anything. We'll defer those projects until 2025. Some of those projects are, due to timing and schedule, they've been delayed, not by us. We'll keep track of those so we can stay on top of them. And then, as it says, that we want to remain agile and responsive to the GCRTA's evolving needs and risk landscape. It's a short presentation. It's informational only. It does not require approval from the board. Should we have had a substantial change to our audit plan, I would have requested approval from the board. This, again, is just informational. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Seeing that there are none, thank you for the update, Tony.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate it, just keeping us current on addressing the priorities of the authority.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
That's the last item under Committee of the Whole. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second, Welch.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
I will now call to order the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee. Teresa, roll call.
Ms. Welch?
Here.
Mr. Love?
Here.
And Mr. Sleesman?
Here.
You have 3 committee members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We actually have 3 presentations on the agenda today. The first presentation is going to be an IFP procurement presentation of a competitive procurement for modifications to the Brook Park maintenance facilities. At this time, we'll have presenters Don Tariba, resident engineer, and Jonathan Lawley, program contract manager for procurement. You may now have the floor. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Chairperson Welch, committee members, and members of the board. My name is Donald Tariba. I am the engineering project manager for facilities at RTA. And I, along with Jonathan Lawley from the procurement department, will be presenting on the Brook Park Maintenance Facility Modifications Projects. The Brook Park shops are currently being used by the West Side Rail Facilities Maintenance Department. Staff report to and work out of this facility. They store some of their vehicles and equipment inside, but much of it is needed to be stored outside due to the limited amount of space. This project came about after it was kind of determined that the Brook Park shops would be the ideal location to do the upcoming rail car commissioning. So there was a need to find additional space or a new space for them. This property was purchased and these plans were developed to rehabilitate this facility to be used as the new home for the West Side Rail Facilities Maintenance Department. There are also offices being rehabilitated to be used by the transit police. The location of this project is approximately 1 mile east of the existing location. You can see on the map there. The existing location with the Brook Park shops is east of the airport, east of I-71, just south of Brook Park Road, across from the Brook Park Rapid Station. This facility was originally a manufacturing facility. It had office space in the front of the building, and the manufacturing area was in the rear. There's some existing photos after it was cleaned up a little bit and they moved out. The size of this building will allow for additional storage, for vehicle storage and also additional office space. The scope of work of this project includes, but is not limited to, installing 6 new overhead doors, modifying the office restrooms to be ADA compliant, replacing the existing carpeting with vinyl tile flooring, replacing the existing air compressor, installing floor drainage in the garage area, cleaning and painting the interior walls, installing surveillance and access control systems, replacing the fire alarm and adding devices to bring the building up to building code. They will verify and label all electrical panels in the facility and installing new network, switch, and Cat6 Ethernet cabling to each office. For the overview of the procurement, I'll turn it over to Jonathan Lawley.
Good morning, Chairperson Welsh, members of the committee, members of the board. Jonathan Lawley, Program Contract Manager for this project. The invitation for bid was issued on July 29, 2024. 16 interested parties reviewed the solicitation. 6 submitted a bid for this project. The lowest responsive and responsible vendor for this project was Sona Construction LLC. They'll be using Western Reserve Interiors Incorporated, River City Building Solutions LLC, and East West Construction Company Incorporated to meet the 11% DBE goal assigned to this project. Sona Construction LLC has successfully completed projects for Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Cuyahoga County, the City of Cleveland, among others. Staff is requesting the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend award to Sona Construction LLC for this project in a contract amount not to exceed $1,281,000. At this point, we'll take questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the board as a whole? Okay. Thank you so much. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Yep, go ahead.
Did have one question.
Yes, absolutely.
Just question on the timing of this. I know this is a key part of the whole rail car program. When, in the timeline, when would management like this building operational for training purposes and things like that?
We'd like to be in there by August of 2025.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Do I have a motion to move forward with the contract to Sona Construction LLC to the full board?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This will now move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a RFP procurement, a presentation of a competitive negotiated procurement for a qualified engineering firm to provide on-call rail engineering expertise to supplement the GC/RTA engineering staff. Today, we have presenters Kathleen McGurvey, Engineering Project Manager for TRAC, and Lou Catalucci, who's a Contract Administrator for Procurement. You may now have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Welsh, members of the committee, members of the board. I'm Kathleen McGurvey, Engineering Project Manager for TRAC, and I'm here with Lou Catalucci from Procurement to discuss the on-call rail engineering services for 2024. The purpose of this project is to provide design and technical support for projects exceeding the capacity of the RTA staff, capacity or expertise of RTA staff. The work will be by task order assignment, and over the 24-month contract period, it will not exceed $450,000. The type of work that this vendor will be doing will be track structure design, catenary system design, signal system design, inspections, communication system design, and substation design. These are all potential types of projects. The potential projects include catenary design for the light rail system, assistance in the preparation of track rehabilitation packages, and track and infrastructure modifications at the Central Rail Maintenance Facility. Now I'll turn it over to Lou for the procurement part.
Good morning, Chair Welch, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Lou Catalucci. I am a contract administrator, and I am the contract administrator for this project. This request for proposal was issued July 28th, 2024. It is accessed on our website by 32 interested parties. That includes some consultants. 2 firms submitted a proposal and 2 firms were interviewed. This was a Brooks Act procurement where we have an evaluation panel that judges the proposers. On that panel, we had members from engineering and project development, power and way, specifically the track department, the Office of Management and Budget, safety, and procurement. The evaluation criteria that the proposers were judged on was project manager, assigned staff, past performance, either with the RTA or other organizations, project approach, location of majority of work, and DBE participation. Our most technically qualified vendor is Michael Baker International, Inc. of Cleveland, Ohio. There's an 8% DBE goal, and it will be met by utilizing National Engineering and Architectural Services, Inc., and Denise's Flagging and Construction Services, Inc. Firm experience of Michael Baker, they have successfully completed projects for the RTA, LA Metro, ODOT, and Dallas Area Rapid Transit, among others. They have an experienced and qualified staff familiar with GCRTA, and they have a clear and acceptable project approach. The staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee recommend award to Michael Baker International, Inc. for consulting services for the On-Call Rail Engineering Services 2024 project. This contract is not to exceed $450,000 for a period of 24 months. We would be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And just for clarification, the on-call engineering services, is that in addition to the engineering services that is going to be part of the light rail and, or I should say, the rail conversion, the modifications to platforms, other track modifications?
This is
just general practice ongoing.
Right, just for things that come up. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thank you for clarification.
And then just out of curiosity, since this isn't a fixed scope of work, when we're negotiating and we're having a back and forth with the various options for organizations to contract with, how do we go about that? How do we talk about structuring these? Just for some background information.
How do we come to an agreement on the cost?
Yeah.
So we do our own internal cost estimate, and then the consultant will provide their proposal. If there's a lot of difference in the price, procurement doesn't even show us the price. We have a scope discussion just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And then after that, we would come to agreement on how to go forward.
And are these essentially like per hour costs based on?
Right, so they will submit those per hour costs before they have submitted their per hour costs. So on these on-calls, we always get the per hour costs, and then we just determine, do we agree on the hours, I guess is the main thing.
Great.
Can I ask for a second? Thanks, Kathleen. Melinda, if you had any additional information from the procurement process for the negotiation?
Sure. Good morning, board members. My name is Melinda D'Angelo, Director of Procurement. Luke can step in also to answer if I don't complete the question. But we have several on-call contracts that we solicit throughout the years to supplement the engineering staff on many projects. I think there's 7 or 8 right now. They're task order based. We negotiate the rates. The rates are established ahead of time. They're part of it, incorporated in the contract. As Kathleen mentioned, there are some projects that we know we're going to be probably needing their assistance on in the next few years, so we already have an idea of what those hours might be. However, every task comes up separately, and we negotiate that task specifically for hours with the already negotiated and established rates, which are incorporated into the contract. And the contract will not exceed $450,000 or 2 years, whichever comes first.
Right.
Does
So
that help?
as far as the rates, what happens is the engineering firm will submit their cost to us, and we also have them submit their ODOT audited rates. And then That's used to determine the billable rate. And then that billable rate is throughout the contract. The other thing I'd like to mention about the procurement is in the previous presentations, you probably saw the name Parsons a lot. So they are the previous contract holder, but when we issue a task to someone like Parsons, they are obligated to complete the task no matter how long it takes. So if they're designing something and then construction takes place after we already have a new on-call rail engineering firm in place, Parsons has to support the work that they already did until the work from their design is complete.
Great, thanks.
Questions from the committee of the whole?
I think you just answered one of my questions. So the current contract holder is?
Parsons.
It's Parsons, okay. And how long was that contract term?
2 years. So their term is ending, or I don't know if the term's ending as much as the dollar amount is close. So right now they're at 400,000 roughly. And we only have 50,000 left, which, we can't really do anything too much with that.
And so the amount's been the same for the last contract as well as the current contract? Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Was Parsons before, did they have the contract before this current term?
This is their first
This
time.
is their first time. Who was before that?
Was it WST or who was it?
Okay, just someone else.
Prior to Parsons that's correct, it was WSP.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to move forward with the recommended award?
So move, Schlesman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much for that presentation. We will now be moving forward with the recommended award of the on-call contract to the October 29th board meeting. Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation on the increase in the appropriation to the fiscal year 2024 general fund and capital fund budgets. Today, we'll have presenters Kay Satula, Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Carolyn Young, Manager of the Office of Management and Budget, and Nicholas Davidson, District Director, from Paratransit District. Thank you so much. You have the floor now.
Good morning, Chair Welsh, members of the committee, and members of the board. My name is Kay Satula. I'm the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. Today, we have a team that will be presenting the 2024 proposed amendments to the operating, reserve, and capital budgets. Salaries, overtime, payroll taxes, and fringes were originally budgeted at $221.9 million. At the beginning of 2024, we had over 270 vacant positions, most of which were operators and mechanics. In order to be more competitive, in 2023, we condensed the steps of operators from 6 to 4 and increased the starting wage to about $25 per hour. We've done a tremendous job with filling these vacancies over the year. From January through May, we've had 30 new hires on average per month. We accelerated that in June, where we had 99 new hires. When an operator is hired, there's a 3-month training program that they must go through. So current operators will fill in to complete the service levels while those new operators are in training. And usually that is done with overtime. Purchase transportation, we entered new contracts with the 3 outside vendors in 2023. This is for our paratransit service. The demand has increased significantly over the past year. We are experiencing some savings in fuel, utilities, services, materials, and supplies. These savings will help to offset the increases that we're experiencing in salaries, fringes, and purchase transportation. I will now turn it over to Nick Davidson, who will talk about the paratransit increases.
Good morning, Chair Welch, Ms. Terry, members of the committee, and members of the board. I'm Nicholas Davidson, District Director for Paratransit. I wanted to speak this morning on the items that are driving the increased cost and have necessitated this $5.9 million increase. The largest of which is our demand in ridership. You can see that year over year, our demand has grown, and we expect by the end of the year that we'll have a 9.2% increase in ridership over last year, which is a 35.6% increase over ridership in 2019. The item that's driving this increase in demand, aside from our fantastic service, is our county's demographics. The residents in Cuyahoga County over age 60, that population is growing. It will continue to grow until somewhere between 2030 and 2033. The chart shows it in 5-year increments, but all our literature says somewhere closer to 2033. So the population that we serve is growing, and we know that from our TransPro demographics, 88% of paratransit customers are age 55 and over. And with that, you can see that the 50% of our trips are related to healthcare, which is the #1 social determinant in life expectancy. So this is consistent with our demographics, and we're seeing this play out. So as Ms. Satula mentioned, we entered a new contract. If you were to look at our average cost of service in 2019, that average cost was $49.26. The cumulative inflation since then has been 23.3%. So in today's dollars, that would be $60.75. When we entered that contract in June of 2023, it was actually our average cost today in 2024 is $67.66. So why the increase between that number and the $60.75? And that's driven by several items. One is the labor market. Our contractors have a tremendous time trying to hire people. The other item is that the insurance rates for this requirement have doubled. It went from a $5 million liability to a $10 million liability, and that has significantly increased their costs. So I'll pass this back to Ms. Satula.
For the 2024 amended budget, total revenues are projected at $343 million. Sales tax receipts through September have been relatively even with 2023 receipts. And passenger fares have increased compared to 2023. Both of these are presented monthly to the board at the Secretary-Treasurer report. We are proposing an increase in the reserve fund expenditures by $1,644,837, which will then be transferred to the general fund. We are then proposing to transfer this amount to the capital improvement fund for the rail car replacement program, and you'll see that next in the expenditures. For the 2024 amended budget, operating expenditures are projected at $310.4 million. That's a $16.8 million increase from the original budget. Transfers to the other funds will increase by $1.6 million. Again, this is from the reserve fund, and I'll talk about that a little later. The funding transferred from the reserve fund to the general fund will then be transferred to the capital improvement fund for the rail car replacement program. We are projecting an ending balance of 27.5, maintaining the 1-month ending balance. There we go. In the codified rules and regulations of the authority, this identifies the regulations for the reserve fund. At the end of 2023, we had over $161 million in the reserve fund over the 6 categories. Compensated absences. These funds are from the general fund that could be placed into the compensated absence fund for repayment to employees for vacation time earned, or to ensure payment for vacation time earned. The reserve fund shall not exceed 25% of the accrued liability for compensated absences. We currently have $4 million in this fund. 25% of the accrued liability at the end of 2023 totaled $2,946,056. So we have an excess of $1,076,181 in this fund. In the reserve fund for hospitalization, funds from the general fund may be placed in this sub-account to protect against substantial cost increases. The reserve shall not exceed 10% of the annual hospitalization costs. We currently have $2.9 million in this fund. At the end of 2023, 10% of the hospitalization costs totaled $2,337,215. So we have an excess of $568,656 in this account. For the reserve fund for rolling stock replacement, this was established to set aside funds to systematically replace aging revenue vehicles. Funds are then transferred to the Capital Improvement Fund, currently for the rail car replacement program. The $770,000 in this account is due to interest earnings. We have transferred an average of $10 million each year since 2017. Including this $770,000, at the end of 2024, we will have transferred $81 million for the rail car replacement program. So we have the sub-accounts established and maintained to protect the authority. So compensated absences, the last time funding was transferred to this account was in 2019. Hospitalization, the last time funding was transferred to this account was 2018. And rolling stock reserve, we transferred $10 million into this account this year, and that $10 million was then transferred out to the rail car replacement program. So all of these 3 funds have collected interest earnings since then. And that's basically what we're transferring back to the general fund and to the Capital Improvement Fund. The original budgeted appropriation totaled $40 million. With these additional transfers, we are requesting an increase to the appropriation by $2,415,340, all of which eventually will go into the rail car, or the Capital Improvement Fund for the rail car replacement program. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. Questions from the committee? Or committee of the whole?
Question. Is there a slide or just where it shows what we've reserved today for the rail car and how much we have left to go and where those funds came from?
So, yes, we will get that for you.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Fleesman.
Could you go back to the slide on the cost for paratransit? Yeah, that one. So this is for the purchase transportation for the 3 contractors, right? Do we know our internal cost of operations for an hour of paratransit service?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we will provide that.
Great, thanks.
Additional questions?
Can that last slide, the reserve fund for the 30 million, can you just go back to that for a sec? So we're looking for another 30 million in that revenue stabilization to use that?
No, that was already budgeted.
Okay.
Right. So that was part of the original budget with the reserve fund.
It's the original, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And just to follow up to that, so what will the balance be in the revenue stabilization fund after the 30?
I will get that for you. We do have that for you with the resolution.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, if I may just chime in very, very quickly. Mayor Weiss, this is Raj. So I think at the beginning of the year, we had 144.4 million in the reserve fund. What we have budgeted is a transfer of 30 million from the budget stabilization fund into the general fund. If the entire 30 million is indeed transferred by the end of the year, that it would essentially be the difference of the 144 minus the 30 million.
Last year in 23, even though we did budget for a said transfer, we did not.
That is correct.
Need to use it. So even though it was out there and it was part of the budget to make sure that we were being prudent, given the activity of the overall authority, that got pulled back into the revenue stabilization fund.
That is correct.
It was not needed. So
absolutely
good reconciliation end of the year may be helpful just to know that we have anticipated that, but don't always need the full amount, or in the case of 23.
We'll have that available.
Okay,
Thank you.
Additionally? There is a recommendation to present this FY 2024 amended general fund and reserve fund budget to the full board. So if there are additional questions outside of that, I would recommend reaching out to GM Birdsong Terry or leadership team around any additional questions before we get to that. Would you like to add?
Spot on. I just wanted to make sure that I got, excuse me, all of the questions on record here. So I have 3 questions. Let me know if we have anything missing. And absolutely, I would just suggest that we forward those questions either to myself or Teresa or Raj. And of course, we can make sure that we get the folks as appropriate. Kay is always ready to take those emails as well. Paratransit costs, what is the internal cost per hour? We also have the rail car, a request for the rail car funding stack is usually what we call it. And that's an updated spreadsheet as far as how much do we have to go at the current cost of the total package of $393 million for the total package of that project. Keep in the back of your mind that that may adjust as we move forward throughout the duration of the project. So we'll be able to get that funding stack to you as current. And that'll be updated as we move through. And then also the Revenue Stabilization Fund, I think Raj gave a synopsis of that, but that's basically the 144 minus 44. But we'll confirm after that 30 million is transferred, give or take.
Minus the 30.
Minus 30. What did I say? Okay.
I think you said 40 or something, but
30.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are the top 3 we have? All right.
For now.
So if we could internally maybe provide that information via Teresa in a quick memo to the board in anticipation of the next meeting, so that if there are any other additional questions, we'll take those as well.
And so now I'll just need a motion to recommend the FY 2024 amended general fund reserve fund budget to the full board at the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will move that to the full board discussion on October 29th. Yes.
Could you circulate the slides, presentation slides? It'd be helpful as we're going through the answers to them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Do I now have a motion to adjourn the operational planning?
one more.
Just sorry. Apologies. We're not canceling yet. We have to move on to the next presentation. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's no problem.
Ms. Young.
Good morning, Mrs. Welch.
Ready to end it.
Good morning, Mrs. Welch, committee members and officers of the board. My name is Carolyn Young. I'm the manager in Office of Management and Budget. And today I'm here to present the proposed amendment for the fiscal 2024 Capital Improvement Fund. So you already heard the presentation from the Railcar Committee. However, to align the budget, we are requesting, back in May 16, 2023, the board approved the annual budget of $146.3 million in the capital improvement program. Today, we are requesting to adjust the budget to $247.8 million, which is a $101.5 million adjustment to the railcar program. This would actually right-size the railcar program to allow budget authority for the next 18 car options. Are there any questions?
Questions? Mayor Wise?
Just that slide back up, please.
Sure.
This one, we don't have a definitive contract price under the current contract, so
That is correct.
would be adjusted.
That would be correct. So the adjustment that we're requesting is to allow us budget authority. So right now, there's insufficient budget authority to exercise the next option. So we're asking that we increase the current budget from 146 to 247 to ensure that we have sufficient budget authority.
Thank you.
And for would be directly related to the 18 rail cars for the option?
Yes.
At approximately 5.3 million, whatever that is.
And some
Simple math.
associated contingencies associated with it.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And that funding is in place in one of the reserve funds.
So right now, we're asking for the budget authority. However, we do have the funding to support the next 18. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love, did you have a? No. Okay. Committee of the Whole. All right.
Staff requests that the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee present the amended 2024 Capital Improvement Fund budget to the full board for approval.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This now moves on to the full board. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Am I missing anything else today? I just want to double check. Do I have a motion to suspend the Operational Planning and Infrastructure, or end the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now adjourning the Operational Planning and Infrastructure Committee meeting. President, do you have any final words for us, GM Birdsong Terry?
I think that's all we have on the agenda today. Thank you.